In today's video, we're going to talk about how to create low-content books that you can sell on Amazon as promotional items for your hobby-related YouTube channel. Okay, so for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Craig Babin, and I'm on a mission to turn my part-time hobby into a full-time income. And I'm hoping to inspire as many of you as possible to do the exact same thing. So if you have a hobby that you want to monetize, then hit that subscribe button and click that bell notification so that you don't miss a single video. And while you're at it, give this video a like, because those likes really do help my channel. Now, my part-time hobby is drawing. And the majority of the illustrations that you're going to see me create on this channel in the coming years are going to be created for children's products. Whether it be storybooks, picture books, coloring books, or even just activity books. With the exception of the occasional adult t-shirt design, the majority of the illustrations that I'll be creating will be utilized for children's products. And the book that I'll be creating in today's tutorial is no exception. I'm a firm believer in learning something new every day. It's a habit that I picked up from my father. I also think it's extremely important to write things down if you want to retain the information you've learned. And it's for those reasons that I created this book. This is the Learn One New Thing Every Day book. It's a 365-page daily journal for kids that encourages them not only to learn something new every day, but to write it down as well. I firmly believe that just spending a few minutes every day learning something new is enough to fuel a child's creativity as well as build their self-confidence. Because you never know when one little piece of information could spark a lifelong passion that will take them down a completely different path in life. So if there's a child in your life whose creativity could use a little refueling, and you want to support my channel at the same time, this book is available on Amazon, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. That being said, let's get started. Now, as I mentioned in my video on creating a master plan for a passive income, one of the ways that you can use to monetize your part-time hobby is by creating and selling promotional items that pertain to your particular hobby. If you haven't seen that video yet, I strongly suggest that you watch it. It'll give you a much better idea of what my channel is all about. I'll put a link to it in the description below. As I said in that video, your YouTube audience are not only potential customers for the finished artwork that you create on your YouTube channel, they're also fans of your hobby. And as fans of your hobby, they may be interested in purchasing promotional items that pertain to that hobby. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create simple, low-content promotional books that you can sell on Amazon. Books that are specific to your particular hobby and that your hobby-related YouTube channel subscribers may be interested in purchasing for themselves. Okay, so the first thing you need to do before publishing your hobby-related promotional book is figure out what kind of low-content book you want to create. You can create a low-content promotional book for pretty much any hobby. You can create something that is very hobby-specific, or you can create something that is more generalized. An example of a generalized promotional book would be a daily planner. Regardless of what your hobby is, everyone can use a daily planner. And there are thousands of daily planners to choose from on Amazon. So then why would anyone choose your planner over the rest? Because the cover of your daily planner will be hobby-specific. Let me give you an example. So let's say your hobby is breeding wiener dogs. Then you'd want to create a cover for your daily planner that appealed to wiener dog lovers. The contents of your book could look just like any other daily planner. The reason your YouTube audience would purchase your daily planner over all of the rest that are available on Amazon is because of the cover. It's that simple. You could create a promotional book that is filled with nothing but lined paper. Just about every home has a notepad in it. And people buy notepads because they need paper to jot down stuff like messages and grocery lists. All they really want is a pad of lined paper, and pretty much any pad will do. But if you can offer them a pad that not only fills their needs, but also appeals to their love of a particular hobby, then you're going to get their business over all the other sellers. Now let me give you a few examples of hobby-specific promotional books. So let's say that your hobby is playing chess, and that you have a YouTube channel that teaches people how to play. You could create a chess scorebook as a promotional item, and you could promote this book on all your YouTube videos. Now, before anyone says, I wouldn't even know where to begin to create something like that, stick around, because I'm going to show you how to create the interior of this book in about 10 minutes with no design skills whatsoever. Here's another example. Let's say you have a meditation channel that teaches people how to meditate. You could create a meditation journal to offer to your subscribers. You know, something that would allow them to keep track of their progress, how long they meditated for, what mantras they used, and stuff like that. How about if your hobby is scuba diving? Every scuba diver needs a scuba diving logbook. And if you have a YouTube channel that gives them free tips and techniques on how to scuba dive safely and on which equipment to use, I'm sure that many of your viewers would be more than happy to support your channel by purchasing your scuba diving logbook. It can even be something as simple as a children's activity book. If you have a YouTube channel that offers tips on how to keep children entertained, a simple book of children's games could bring in a nice little side income for you. Now, once you figured out what type of promotional book you're going to create, the next step will be to figure out what size it's going to be and in which software you're going to create it in. Now, myself personally, I'm an Adobe guy. I've always been an Adobe guy and I will always be an Adobe guy. I just really like the Adobe pipeline. So for this video, I'm going to show you how to create a book using Adobe software. More specifically, I'll be using InDesign for the interior and Illustrator for the cover. That being said, just know that you can create a book like this in a variety of different software, and I'm going to show you some free software that you can use in just a minute. Okay, before we can do anything else, we need to figure out what size of book we're going to create. And to do that, we need to head over to the KDP website. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with KDP, it stands for Kindle Direct Publishing, and Kindle Direct is a self-publishing company owned by Amazon. In a nutshell, this is how the company works. As an author, you create a book that you want to have published. You go to KDP and open a free account. Then you upload your book to KDP free of charge, and then once your book is approved, KDP will list your book on Amazon, once again free of charge. So for the most part, there are no upfront costs here whatsoever. KDP is a print-on-demand company, which means they only print copies of your book when someone orders them. So there's no inventory to carry, which is great for authors who are just getting started. Now, if someone buys your book, KDP will print a copy of it, package it, and ship it to the customer for you. You set the retail price of your book. When a book is sold, KDP will subtract the printing cost from the retail price that the customer paid, and whatever's left over is your profit. The shipping is paid for by the customer, or if they're Amazon Prime members, it's free. Either way, you don't pay for it. It's that simple. So to find out what book sizes are available, we have to head over to KDP. I'm just going to type KDP book templates into Google and get the link. Once on the page, you can see all of the book sizes that KDP offers. As you can see, it shows you dimensions for books with bleed and without bleed. For the type of book we're going to be creating, we don't need to worry about bleed, so just ignore this for now. You'll also notice that there are a lot of tips on this page on how to format your book as well. So you may want to spend a few minutes reading through this page. I'll put a link to it in the description below. For those of you who don't have Adobe InDesign, there are 2 links near the top of the page that lead you to pages that will walk you through step-by-step how to format your book using Microsoft Word. Now, if by chance you don't have Microsoft Word, there's also a link where you can download free software called Kindle Create. It's software that you can download directly from KDP, and the download page even has a 10-step tutorial that shows you exactly how to format your book using their software. I'll put a link to all of these KDP pages in the description below. Since I'm going to be using InDesign, all I need to do right now is choose a book size. So I'm going to use 6x9 for this first example. And now that I know my book's dimensions, I can go and set it up in Adobe InDesign. So to start creating your book, you first want to launch InDesign and then click Create New. When the new document window opens, you want to start by setting your dimensions. I'm going to make sure that the units are set to inches and then type in my dimensions. For this first example, I'm just going to make my book 12 pages. I can always add more pages later on. When choosing page quantity, always use an even number in multiples of 4. When a sheet of paper is added to your book, it's folded in half, which creates 2 pages with a front and back side, equaling a total of 4 individual pages. So you need to account for that. As long as your total number of pages is a multiple of 4, you're fine. We can just skip over the columns because we're only going to be using 1 column. Now, when it comes to margins, I found that setting the top, bottom, and outside margins to 0.5 and the inside margin to either 0.7 or 0.75 seems to work best. Make sure to turn off the lock so that you can enter in the margins individually. Now just leave the bleed and slug as is. Now you can hit create. As you can see, we now have our book template set up. Now if you don't see the pages menu on the right hand side, just go up to window in the top menu and open it from the drop down menu. The reason you want to add the extra 0.25 on the inside margin is to make allowances for the gutter, or the fold of the book. You don't want any of your book's content going into the gutter where it can't be read. So as you can see here, we have a 0.5 inch margin all around the outside of the book and a slightly wider 0.75 inch margin in the gutter. And the reason we left the bleed and slug as is because it doesn't apply to what we're doing here. The only time you need to concern yourself with bleed is when you have images in your book that you want to go to the very edge of the paper, like in a children's picture book. In that situation, you want your images to go over the edge of the page, so that when the book is cropped for printing, there isn't a white border around the edge of your page. Now you'll notice that when we look at our first page, the left side is missing. That's because the gray area is actually the inside cover of our book. So technically, this is the first page of our book. Now in most books, the first page is a cover page that might have some type of graphic on it. Many people just put a black and white version of the cover art here. It's quick and easy. The next page is usually the copyright page, where you might list your contact information, ISBN number, as well as information about the publisher. The third page could be your table of contents, if you have one, or it could just be a dedication page. Because books are normally started on the right-hand side, the fourth page is often left blank. And I'll give you some examples of these pages in just a minute. But for now, let's get started by numbering our pages. Now, unless you're going to be including a table of contents in your book, there really isn't any reason to number the pages. I just think that even without a table of contents, numbering the pages just gives the book a more finished look. So to number our pages, we're going to begin by selecting the A Master page in the Pages menu in the right-hand column. Next, we'll create a text box using our text tool, and then go up to Type in the top menu. Once the drop-down menu opens, we'll select Insert Special Character, Markers, and then choose Current Page Number. I'm going to leave this text left justified, but if you wanted to change that, you could just select the letter A and then click on the Properties tab next to the Pages tab, and then change it in there. Again, if you don't see the Properties tab, go up to Window in the top menu and open it from the drop-down menu. In the Properties menu, you can also change the font style, size, and color, among other things. But I'm just going to leave this as is for now. Now, to give our pages a little more stylized look, I'm going to add two more features. The first is a divider that I'll create using my rectangle tool. And then I'm going to use my text tool to add the title of the book. I think I'm going to change all of the font colors and the rectangle color to an 80% gray, just so it's not so prominent. Now I'm just going to copy all of this and repaste it on the opposite page. But I'm going to switch it around so that it's in reverse order. I'm also going to change the letter A's justification to the right side. Now if I go back to my pages, you can see that all of my pages are numbered. I'm just going to hit my W key to turn off the margins so that you can see the pages clearly. Now I have a problem. I don't want my page numbers to start on the first page. I want them to start on the fifth page after the table of contents. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the numbers off the first 4 pages. And to do that, I just have to go up to my page menu and select a None page and drag it onto all of the pages that I don't want numbering on. It's pretty simple. I now have a second problem. I don't want my numbering to begin on the number 5. I want it to start on the number 1. So to rectify this, I'm going to select my page 5 in the Pages menu and right-click on it. Now I'm going to uncheck Allow Document Pages to Shuffle and Allow Selected Spread to Shuffle. After that, with page 5 still selected, I'm going to right-click on it one more time and select Numbering and Selection Options. In the New section menu that opens up, I'm going to select Start Page Numbering at 1 and click OK. I'm also going to click OK when the warning menu pops up. As you can see, my page numbering now starts at 1. I'm going to hit my W key to turn my margins back on again. Now your book template is all set up. All you have to do is enter the content. You can use your text tool to enter text, or even blank lines, if you were creating a journal. You can also go up to File in the top menu and choose Place to add graphics. It's entirely up to you how you choose to lay out your content. But I promise to show you a way to create a complete low-content manuscript in under 10 minutes, and here's how you do it. There are quite a few websites online that offer free and paid content for KDP book creators. They literally give you the content for your books for free. All you have to do is download it. One of those sites is called Bookbird. I'll put a link to it in the description below. You can download their free templates, which range from scuba diving logbooks and chess tactics journals to simple kids games. And if you want even more options, you can purchase their premium bundles for under $40. And Bookbird is not the only website. There are quite a few others. But if you want the biggest selection, go to Etsy and just type in KDP Book Interiors. Etsy has thousands to choose from, starting at about $1.99 each. Now I'm going to show you just how easy these are to use. I downloaded one of the free bundles from Bookbird and chose a few interiors to use in this example. Now this is the folder that you get for the meditation diary. Inside you can see that you get a few options for page quantities, but don't use these PDFs because they're not properly set up for printed books. As you can see when I open one of them up, the margins are not properly set up. We have very narrow margins in the gutter, and this will be a problem for your final product. But these files are free, so we can't really be picky. Luckily, they also give us the source files, so we can set this interior up properly without too much difficulty. Now they give you 5 different versions of the source file, and you can edit these interiors in any of the following software: Adobe Illustrator, Adobe PDF, PowerPoint, or Photoshop. I'm going to open the Illustrator file just so that you can see what you're working with. As you can see, everything in here is editable. You can change the font styles and colors. You can replace all of the icons if you want to. You can even rearrange all of these boxes to customize the page to your own preference. Or you can just leave it as is. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to jump over into InDesign and show you just how simple it is to use these. Once back in InDesign, just head down to the first page that you want your book interior to start at, and then go up to the File and then down to Place and find your EPS file. As you can see, the file is now loaded on my cursor. All I have to do is left-click on the top left-hand corner of the margin and drag open the file. The reason that I wanted to use a free file is so that you could see that sometimes you get what you pay for. Not only are the margins not set up properly, but this interior is going to be too short for our book template. But because we have the source files, fixing this problem will be fast and easy. All we need to do is go back into the source file and spread out the contents a little. Once you're done, save the file and then try placing it one more time back in InDesign. Make sure you turn off the margins layer in the source file before you save it, otherwise the margins will show up in your book. Now when placing this interior straight from another software, you'll notice that it comes with the artboard. So in other words, a white border around it. It's completely transparent, but it's there. So when placing the image, be sure to place your cursor outside of your margin. Then drag it out so that it crosses over the other side of your margin. The reason you want to do this is because the blue line around your image is actually the window, not the image itself. So if I tried to resize the image, nothing would happen. It would just be resizing the window. To resize the image itself, I have to double click on the image. You'll notice that when I do this, the blue adjustment border temporarily turns gold. This means that the image is now in editing mode, so I can now adjust the size. So I'll just resize it so that it fits perfectly inside of my margins. Now that I have it the size that I want, I'm going to select the window again, but I'm not going to double click it this time. I don't want to be in editing mode. I just want to copy this image. Once it's copied, I'm going to go down to my next blank page and click on it. You'll know if you have the proper page selected if you see it illuminated in blue in your Pages menu. Then I simply have to go up to Edit in the top menu and choose Paste in Place. I'll hit Paste in Place one more time to get a second copy of the image, and then I'll drag the top copy of the image over to the left side of the page. Now with both pages filled, I'll select both copies, and in the Edit menu, I'll choose Copy, and then once again, go down to my next blank spread and click on it. Then I'll go back up to Edit and choose Paste in Place one more time. And as you can see, everything lines up perfectly. Now all I have to do is repeat this last step until I've filled up all of my empty pages. If you need more pages in your book, you just have to go up to the menu icon in the Pages menu and choose Insert Pages from the drop-down menu. Type in the number of pages you want to add and where you want the blank pages added. Remember, keep your page count in a multiple of 4. In this case, I'll add them after the page I'm currently on. Then click OK. Now go back and continue filling up all of your blank pages. Now, as for these first few pages, you have a couple of options. I'm just going to show you some of the examples from other books that I've created, just so you can get some ideas for your own books. In the book I showed you at the beginning of the video, I simply put a black and white version of the cover art on the first page. I put some promotional information as well as my copyright and ISBN number on the next page. I'll discuss ISBN numbers in my next video when I show you how to publish your book. And for the third page, I just did a This Book Belongs to You page. And then I left the fourth page blank to start my content on the fifth page. Now keep in mind, this is a children's book and a daily journal, so it really doesn't need to have a table of contents. That being said, I do have low content books that I've created that have table of content pages in them. One example is my recipe book, which has the same first 3 pages, cover art, copyright, and This Book Belongs To, but then also has a useful conversion chart as well as a table of contents. So how you lay out your book is entirely up to you. Now once your book is complete, it's time to save it out for the printer. What you want to do is go up to File in the top menu and down to Export. In the Export Adobe PDF window, make sure that the Adobe PDF preset at the top is set to press quality. Next, make sure that you have all of the pages selected and that you're exporting pages, not spreads. You have to export pages for KDP. Spreads won't work properly. Everything else will stay the same. Don't worry about compression or marks and bleeds. You won't need any of that. But if you notice that your marks and bleeds are turned on, turn them off. Otherwise, they'll show up in your book. Now, just hit Export and you're done. You now have a finished interior ready to upload to KDP. The next thing we're going to need to do is create a book cover. To do that, we're going to need a template. So we'll head back over to the KDP website to download our template. I'll put a link to this page in the description below as well. You want to start by selecting your trim size. Now in the interior example, we use 6x9 as our book dimensions, but because I'm going to be creating the cover for my Learn One New Thing Every Day book as an example, I'm going to use its dimensions, which are 8.5 by 8.5. Now it's extremely important that you put the proper page count here. The page count that you enter is going to determine the width of your book's spine. If you get it wrong, your front and back covers won't line up properly. Let me show you what I mean. Here are 2 examples of cover templates with the same book dimensions, but different page counts. As you can see, the book with the higher page count has a much wider spine, so make sure that your page count is accurate when downloading your template. Once you have your cover template, the easiest way to ensure that your book cover is the proper size is to just open the cover image from inside Illustrator. Once it's open, just lock the layer that it's on and then reduce your artboard to the size of the template. You'll notice that as you reduce your artboard, your cursor snaps right to the edge of the template. Now that you have your template image in place, all you really need to remember when creating your cover is this. The dotted line around the border of the template is where the book is going to be cropped. So with the exception of your background image, keep all of your text well inside of this line. The two vertical blue lines are where the book cover folds, so center your spine text in between these two lines. The white area is your live area, so anything that is supposed to appear in full view needs to stay within this area. And finally, don't put any text that you don't want covered up in this area, because this is where KDP is going to place the barcode when they print your book. You can put your background design over this area, just no text. Other than that, that's all you really need to know. Just remember to turn off your template guide before you export the file, otherwise it'll show up in your final document. A little piece of advice, actually delete the template layer, just to make sure that it doesn't show up in the final product. So for the cover creation, I'm actually going to speed up the video here just to keep this video from running too long. But I'll give you some useful tips along the way, so watch it to the very end to get some good ideas on how to lay out your own book covers. My first tip for creating your book cover is to find one or two really good fonts to use. You can find all kinds of free fonts at either dafont.com or 1001 Free Fonts. I'll put a link to both of them in the description below. Make sure that the fonts you use are 100% free and that they clearly state that they are available for commercial use. If it doesn't state somewhere that it's available to use commercially, don't use it, because that can come back to bite you in the butt later on. Also, if you're going to be creating genre-specific books that use a similar style font for all your covers, like children's books, consider spending a few bucks to buy a desktop license for a really good font. They're only about $20, and once you have the license, you can use that font not only in your books, but you can also use it on all of your promotional materials as well. Trust me, it's worth the money. Make sure that your cover art and text are bold, legible, and catchy. You want your cover to stand out among all of the rest of the books on Amazon. Keep in mind that many Amazon customers view the Amazon website on mobile devices, so the icon for your book cover is going to be very small. It's very important to make sure that your book cover is legible even at that small size. When coming up with a design for your book cover, try to steer clear from using borders or any straight lines that parallel the edge of your book. There's no guarantee that the crop of your book cover will be perfectly straight every time. So if the crop is even a millimeter off and you have a visual border around your cover, the unevenness of the margin between your graphic border and the edge of your cover is going to be very apparent. So stay away from straight lines that follow the edge of your book. If you must use straight lines on your cover, lay them out on an angle and have them wrap around the book instead of follow the edge of it. This way, if the crop is slightly off, you won't be able to tell. Try and keep the front cover of your book as neat and decluttered as possible. Remember, Amazon customers will be scrolling through the book listings fairly quickly. You want to make sure that your book cover catches their eye immediately, so try to refrain from putting a bunch of bells and whistles on the cover. Just keep it simple. Although the title of the book is very important, make sure there's a dominant image on the page that serves as the focal point for your cover. And make sure that that image really identifies with the subject matter of your book. If you put an image on your cover that has absolutely no relevance to the contents of your book, it's just going to confuse your potential customers. You only have a few seconds to grab their attention, so use those few seconds wisely. Let's use this image that I'm illustrating here as an example. My book is meant for kids, so a cartoon character is a good fit for my content. But even more so, it's a cartoon character that's writing in a journal. And my book is a daily journal for kids. So this cartoon illustration is actually sending the customers a subliminal message that this book is a writing journal for kids. In fact, some people might even reach that conclusion without even seeing the title of the book. Try to put imagery on your cover that mimics the mood of your book. If you have a book that deals with the subject of how to cope with the loss of a loved one, it's probably not a great idea to use an image that shows a group of people standing around in party hats, laughing and blowing on party favors. You're not just selling the contents of the book, you're selling a mood. Coming back to this illustration, the cartoon character is smiling and having fun. This sets a mood of happiness and joy. I'm also trying to sell the point that learning new things every day and writing them down makes you smarter. That's why I chose to draw an owl. Owls have always been portrayed in children's literature as being very wise. It's the subtle details like this that will help you sell your book in the end. If you'd like to give digital illustration a try, check out my video on how to draw and paint in Adobe Illustrator. I'll put a pop-up link to that video at the end of this video. The text and the focal point image on the cover of your book really need to stand out, so make sure that there's plenty of contrast between them and your background image. It doesn't necessarily have to be color contrast, it could just be a difference in value. In other words, one is light and the other is dark. How you choose to put contrast between them is irrelevant, just as long as your text and focal point image pop. This goes for the back cover of your book as well. If your background image is even slightly busy, it may make it difficult to read the text on the back of your book. So if you happen to find yourself in this situation, just use a buffer between the text and the background imagery. And what I mean by buffer is some type of shape like a rectangle or a square, or it could even just be some organic blob. It really doesn't matter. It just needs to be a solid object that you place between the text and your background imagery that makes your text a little more legible. I usually use a solid colored rectangle and reduce the opacity by about 10 to 20%. If you continue watching until the end of this video, you'll see that I've used a buffer on the back of this book cover as well. When it comes to choosing a color palette for your book cover, make sure that all of the colors you use are complementary. Pick a few colors that work really well together and then choose one or two accent colors. Your primary colors should be used throughout the entire cover. So if there is a particular color that you want to use in your focal point image, try to use that color or at least a shade of that color in the background as well. Ultimately, you want to try and use as few colors as possible when creating your cover. Whatever imagery you choose to use for the background of your cover, just make sure that it wraps around the entire book. You don't want your background image to be limited to only the front cover of your book. Even if you manage to line up your image perfectly with a fold between the front cover and the spine of the book, there's no guarantee that your book cover will be cropped perfectly. So that front cover image may end up finishing slightly on the spine, or it may not even make it to the edge of the book at all, which is going to make the cover look like a misprint or even worse, unprofessional. It's okay to use photos for your background, just make sure that you have the rights to use the photo commercially. Two really great websites to find royalty-free images on are Pexels and Pixabay. I'll put a link to both of them in the description below. I strongly recommend that you create your book cover in CMYK so that the printed cover will look as close as possible to how it appears on your computer screen. A problem that a lot of first-time book authors run into is creating their book covers in RGB and then sending the manuscript off to the printer only to have it come back looking either really off color or way too dark. You can avoid this problem altogether just by creating your covers in CMYK. Also, make sure that you clearly define what's in your book on the cover. Customers should be able to tell exactly what your book is about just by reading the cover. And don't forget to promote your website if you have one, or your YouTube channel on the back and on the spine of the book. In the next video, I'll be walking you through how to publish your book with KDP. I'll also be showing you how to set up your authors page on Amazon. If you're going to be uploading multiple books for your YouTube viewers to purchase, it may not be a bad idea to register a domain name that you can direct toward your authors page. This way here, you can promote your custom domain name rather than a big long Amazon subdomain URL. I purchased the domain name craigbabinbooks.com, and I had GoDaddy point the domain at my Amazon author page. This way here, I can advertise this URL on the back of all of my books, and it's nice, clean, and easy to remember. You can buy a domain name at GoDaddy for about $2.99 for the first year. So it's not very expensive, and it's definitely worth the money. My final tip is this. Your book cover is very important to the sale of your book. So if you're not a graphic designer, then hire one to create your book cover for you. There are plenty of websites online where you can hire designers to create book covers for you at a reasonable price. And one such site is Fiverr. Now, if you are creative and you want to give creating your own book cover a shot, but you just don't have the software to do it, there are two great websites online that make creating book covers really simple. The websites are Canva and Placeit. I have an affiliate link to both of these websites in the description below. Well, there you have it. A fairly simple way to monetize your part-time hobby with minimal time or effort. Now, hopefully this video has given you some ideas of promotional books that you can create to sell to your own YouTube channel subscribers. I just want to remind you that if you'd like to support my channel, the book that I created in this video, the Learn One New Thing Every Day book, is available for purchase on Amazon, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. Just know that every purchase made helps me get one step closer to reaching my goal, and for that, I thank you. As always, if you have any questions or comments about what I'm doing here, leave them in the comment section below, and if I use one of your questions in an upcoming video, I'll be sure to give you a shout out in that video. So in my next video, I'll walk you step by step through the entire process of publishing your first book using Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing. So if you've ever thought about self-publishing, you're not going to want to miss this video. If you like this type of content and you want to see more, let me know by liking this video. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Until next time, take care.